The stars had always held an ancient promise. For centuries, humanity gazed up at them with awe, imagining a future among them. In the deepest reaches of space, the Orion Assembly, a powerful coalition of advanced alien civilizations, ruled the galaxy with an ironclad philosophy. They governed not by strength alone, but by a strict code of progress. Species that were allowed to join the assembly had earned their place through millennia of evolution, testing, and gradual growth. To the assembly, the universe was a garden, and every species was a carefully nurtured plant, each allowed to grow at its own pace. Humanity had known this. From the moment the first signals from the stars reached Earth, there had been no question that humanity's turn would come, but it would be earned. There was no rush, no sudden leaps. The stars were waiting, and Earth was patient. The first contact came during the calm days of early spring. A transmission, sterile in its precision, drifted across the vastness of space. It had taken years to decode, to understand the nature of the message, yet it was clear. The message was not an offer, not a gesture of alliance, but a long, impersonal invitation to join the evaluation process. The Orion Assembly was known for this. They did not offer admission to the Galactic Council. They offered time. Time to prove worth. Time to rise to their expectations. Humanity, eager for the future but tethered to their roots, embraced this offer with a combination of curiosity and humility. Earth was ready to begin its journey. Decades passed, and life on Earth, though transformative, remained grounded in the Assembly's expectations. The bureaucrats, diplomats, and emissaries who interacted with the Assembly held no illusions about the process. Humans were watched from afar, scrutinized not only by the Assembly, but also by their own world, torn between desire and patience. There was no rush. There were no shortcuts. The evaluation process was long, spanning generations. The Assembly had no interest in species that moved too quickly, that accelerated beyond their means. Humanity was assessed not just for their technology, but for their morality, their cultural evolution, their ability to grow and adapt at the pace dictated by the natural order of the galaxy. Every decision was weighed. Every year on Earth, each scientific breakthrough, each political victory was cataloged and analyzed. The Assembly watched, but never intervened. They would allow the humans to grow, but always from a distance. At first, Earth had embraced this. The diplomatic corps worked tirelessly with the Assembly's emissaries, following their advice, adopting their rules, proving to the galaxy that humanity had the potential to belong. The promise of a place on the Council was worth the wait. After all, how could anyone refuse the chance to stand among the stars? And so, the people of Earth persevered. In the meantime, the galaxy marched on. Civilizations blossomed and faded. Wars were waged and forgotten, and the Assembly continued to rule with unwavering patience. No one challenged the status quo. The galaxy's great civilizations, their lifespans stretching millennia, had mastered the art of slow evolution. They had learned to build their empires not by force, but by carefully calculating their place in the cosmic dance. Earth, by comparison, was a newcomer, and so humanity adapted. They worked toward the slow, steady march of progress, tempering their desires with patience. The human race had not yet seen its true potential. There was still so much to learn, so much to discover. Yet they followed the path laid before them. For a time, it seemed they were content. But that patience at its core was a lie. Beneath the surface, the truth was that humanity, despite their apparent cooperation, had never been truly satisfied with the Assembly's method of governance. The idea that progress had to be measured in millennia, that the galaxy's civilizations were the garden and humans mere seeds waiting to bloom, struck a deep chord of dissatisfaction. There was always a question lingering just below the surface. Why wait? The leaders on Earth may have been compliant, but they knew better than to believe that waiting forever was truly the path to greatness. It was not the Assembly's way to show humanity how to rise to the occasion. It was their way to hold them down until they were deemed worthy. The prospect of a seat at the Council was not a simple invitation. It was an endurance test. One late evening, a high-level meeting took place within the United Nations Assembly Hall, where diplomats from every nation gathered. Tensions had been simmering for some time. News of the Assembly's continued disinterest in Earth status as a member of the Galactic Council had reached the masses, leading to growing frustration on Earth. Political figures, once hopeful about the process, now began to voice their doubts. "We are being ignored," said Secretary General Maria Kovacs, her voice cutting through the room. "I understand the Assembly's need for patience, but we've waited long enough. This isn't about proving our worth anymore. It's about being stuck in limbo. The rest of the galaxy has moved forward while we remain in the shadows." Her words caused ripples among the delegates. Some were hesitant, while others nodded in agreement. Kovacs' bluntness was uncharacteristic, yet she felt the weight of the years pressing down on her. "Are we waiting for them to bless us with their approval?" she continued. "When do we take control of our own future? It's time for Earth to stop asking for permission." Kovacs wasn't alone in her growing frustration. The rest of the world had begun to question the Assembly's methods. Humanity had reached the stars, and yet they still found themselves at the mercy of the Assembly's slow, deliberate process. The idea of waiting for a seat on the Council, of continuing to passively accept the Assembly's control, began to feel less like a choice and more like a trap. But despite the murmurs of discontent, the official stance remained: Earth must wait. There would be no rush. Humanity had earned their place. In the end, patience was not enough. As years turned to decades, humanity's growing impatience simmered. The Assembly, far removed from the daily struggles of life on Earth, continued to govern the galaxy from their pristine, untouched core worlds. They believed that their approach was wise, that time would refine humanity, that their patience would make Earth worthy. Yet the people of Earth began to wonder whether the Assembly's definition of worth was the same as their own. Was it truly worth waiting for? Would humanity ever be given the opportunity to lead? Or would they be lost, caught forever in the bureaucratic web of the Orion Assembly, never allowed to make their mark on the galaxy? The answer was becoming clear. Earth had grown weary of waiting. The first signs of trouble were subtle, small ripples across the fringes of human expansion. In the years after humanity's first contacts with the Orion Assembly, Earth had been content to build its colonies on the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the core worlds where the Assembly and its ancient civilizations resided. These colonies, made up of early pioneers and brave adventurers, were established not only for exploration, but also to ease Earth's growing population and resource demands. The colonies had become a vital part of humanity's future, outposts where humans could learn, grow, and develop their independence. But in the great silence of the outer colonies, the pirates had begun to make their move. At first, they were nothing more than fleeting shadows, groups of rogue ships, unmarked and unregistered, raiding small settlements. No one had paid much attention. After all, space was vast. Pirates were a fact of life. Every civilization, no matter how advanced, had to deal with them sooner or later. The colonies, though isolated, had defenses, and the Earth's military, albeit small and stretched thin across the colonies, was more than capable of dealing with such minor threats. Or so they thought. Then the raids started growing in frequency, intensity, and scale. It wasn't just pirates anymore. Human intelligence networks, though still in their infancy, began to piece together the truth. The pirate fleets were being backed by something much larger. There were whispers of rogue factions within the Orion Assembly, groups within the Council who were unhappy with humanity's slow, methodical rise. Their influence was felt in the galaxy's underbelly, in the shadowy corners where power brokered with black market deals and illicit military factions. As the pirates grew bolder, their attacks became more organized, more destructive. Entire colonies were wiped out in mere days. Entire systems burned to the ground. The unspoken truth began to emerge. These weren't just pirate raids. They were calculated assaults. The colonies were being targeted for reasons far beyond simple profit. And the Assembly, as usual, was indifferent. It was in the year 2197 when the first large-scale raid hit one of Earth's most important colonies, Valhalla 9. Located on the edge of the Perseus Arm, the colony was a bustling trade hub and a vital link between Earth's outer settlements and the inner systems. Valhalla 9 had been part of the first wave of colony expansions, and its loss would not only send shockwaves throughout the human colonies, but would also send a clear message. Earth's expansion would no longer be tolerated. The pirates struck with incredible force, overwhelming the colony's defenses in hours. News of the attack spread quickly, but even as the cries for help echoed through the network of human colonies, Earth received no aid. At first, Earth's leaders hoped for a response from the Assembly. After all, they were supposed to be the galaxy's guardians. The Orion Assembly had always preached the value of peace, order, and stability, and surely they would intervene. After all, humanity was still under evaluation, and it was unthinkable that they would abandon one of their own. But the Assembly remained silent. No fleets arrived. No emissaries responded. Instead, an official communiqué was sent from the Assembly's core worlds, cold and indifferent. It read, "Pirate activity in frontier regions is not the responsibility of the Galactic Council. These are internal disputes, the necessary growing pains of a developing civilization. Human settlements must learn to defend themselves." The word stung. The people of Earth, still nursing the wounds from the loss of Valhalla 9, were left in disbelief. The message was clear. The Council would not interfere. Pirates were part of the process. Disputes like these were not to be escalated. After all, the Assembly's philosophy had always emphasized that civilizations must evolve through their own trials, not through external interference. The aftermath of Valhalla 9 was disastrous. In the months following the attack, pirates continued to ravage the outer colonies, unchecked. Every attempt to organize a counterstrike was met with minimal resources and insufficient support from Earth's already strained military. Even with the global mobilization, human forces could do little against the onslaught. By mid-2198, the colonies began to fall one by one. Pioneering humans, once filled with the promise of a bright future among the stars, were being slaughtered in the outer reaches of the galaxy, with no help in sight. The Assembly did nothing. In the halls of the United Nations, politicians once again gathered, their faces grim. It had taken time, but the people of Earth were finally seeing the truth. The Assembly, those who had been hailed as protectors, were not going to help. Earth had been abandoned, and millions of innocent lives had been lost. The Assembly's message was clear, and the silence was deafening. Humanity was alone. "Is this what they think of us?" Kovacs said, her voice cold, but her words igniting a fire that had been building for years. "Is this the value they place on human lives?" "This isn't just a message of rejection," said General Daniel Crane, a veteran of Earth's military. "This is a warning. The pirates didn't just attack because they could. They were sent by someone within the Assembly. This is no accident." The room fell silent. It was a revelation that none of them had wanted to acknowledge, but there it was, staring them in the face. The Assembly had not only failed to act, they had actively allowed this to happen. "We can't sit by any longer," Kovacs continued. "We've been waiting for them to give us a chance, but they won't. Not until they're ready, and by then, it will be too late. The Assembly doesn't care about our survival, and they never will. We have to take matters into our own hands." The decision was made quickly. A clandestine meeting took place between the highest-ranking officials on Earth, the leaders of the remaining human military forces, and representatives from Earth's most secretive and powerful black budget projects. They had been preparing for such a time as this, waiting for the moment when humanity would be forced to stand on its own. The response, while shocking, was as efficient as it was ruthless. Earth would no longer wait. A new plan was conceived, one that would strike at the heart of the threat facing humanity's future. Operation Ignition. The first step was clear. Earth would assemble all of its most advanced warships, weapons, and technologies, which had long been hidden away from the prying eyes of the Assembly. These weren't just conventional ships. They were the cutting edge of human military technology, designed not for diplomacy, but for war. The AI networks, buried deep within Earth's underground bunkers, were activated. They were the best in the galaxy, systems that could calculate battle strategies in real time, predict enemy movements, and coordinate human forces with terrifying precision. Earth's forces would fight as one, unified by AI, a force that the Assembly had never even imagined. With a new, ferocious resolve, Earth's military launched its first offensive against the pirates. The forces of humanity, once disorganized and crippled by the Assembly's abandonment, now fought with a unity and precision that no one had thought possible. The stage was set. The day the first warship rose from Earth's underground hangars, it was as if the very planet itself had awakened. For decades, humanity had quietly prepared, biding its time while the Assembly's cold indifference hardened their resolve. Now, the moment had arrived. The pirates, those mercenaries of chaos, would learn that humanity was no longer content to wait. Earth was taking matters into its own hands, and Operation Ignition was more than just a name. It was a declaration of war. In the deepest bowels of the Earth, hidden from the prying eyes of the Assembly, were some of the most secretive and powerful military assets ever conceived. These were the results of humanity's most ambitious black-budget projects, programs designed to build weapons capable of shifting the balance of power in the galaxy. For years, these weapons had been nothing more than whispered rumors, with only a select few knowing their true purpose. The warships that emerged from the bunkers were vast, dark behemoths, designed not only for battle but for dominance. They were equipped with technologies so advanced that even the Orion Assembly's most sophisticated fleets would be hard-pressed to match them. At their core were battlefield AIs, sophisticated neural networks capable of analyzing, adapting, and predicting enemy movements with incredible precision. As the first of these ships broke free from the Earth's crust, its engines roared to life, sending shockwaves through the atmosphere. Above, the sky darkened as the massive vessel ascended, the heat from its engines lighting the heavens in a cascade of fire. The first human warship to set foot outside Earth's orbit had arrived. But this was only the beginning. Across the globe, hundreds of warships followed suit, emerging from deep, secretive military bases. Each ship was a technological marvel, sleek and dark, their surfaces reflecting nothing but the vast emptiness of space. The air was charged with the energy of a civilization that had finally stopped waiting. Humanity was ready. At the United Nations, the leaders of Earth's various governments watched in silence as the first wave of ships launched into space. The gravity of the moment was immense. In that instant, humanity was no longer just a hopeful species waiting for a chance to join the Galactic Council. They were a force to be reckoned with. The world's attention was focused on the first battle that was about to unfold. The pirates had been raiding Earth's colonies for months, and now they would face humanity's wrath. General Daniel Crane stood before the council, his face grave. He had spent years training for this moment, preparing for the inevitable. The Assembly's refusal to act had left him with little choice. "We've fought for our survival for too long," he said, his voice low but steady. "Now, we fight for our place in the galaxy. There's no turning back from this." Across the world, broadcasts relayed images of the warships as they entered the dark expanse of space, leaving Earth behind. The pirates, scattered across the outer colonies, had no idea what was coming for them. Their fleets were fragmented, poorly coordinated. In comparison to Earth's newly awakened power, they were nothing more than an annoyance. But this was more than just a military operation. This was humanity's declaration that they would not be subjugated any longer. As the warships tore through space, the battle strategies had already been set into motion. Earth's greatest advantage lay in its battlefield AI networks, which are now fully operational and linked across all warships. These AIs could calculate every possible military strategy, analyze enemy tactics, and execute the perfect response in real time. They were the cutting edge of humanity's technological evolution, developed in secret, now unleashed against those who had wronged them. For the pirates, it was a nightmare they could not escape. When they first saw the Earth fleets approach, they believed it was another routine raid from a distant, unimportant colony. They were wrong. The first battle was swift. The pirates, armed with outdated weaponry and makeshift tactics, attempted to strike at the heart of Earth's forces. But the human fleet was a well-oiled machine. The AIs analyzed the pirates' movements, predicted their strike points, and countered with brutal efficiency. Waves of pirate ships were wiped from existence in seconds. A counteroffensive, launched by a desperate pirate fleet, was easily outmaneuvered by the coordinated attacks of Earth's warships. With every passing moment, the pirates were decimated, their fleets scattering into nothingness. The operation was intended to be a swift, decisive blow, and humanity delivered. By the end of the first day of combat, the pirate fleets were shattered, their bases reduced to rubble. In just 72 hours, the campaign was over. The outer colonies were safe. But the cost was clear. Humanity had revealed a level of power the galaxy had never seen before. On Earth, celebrations erupted. The people had been starving for victory, for a sense of control over their fate. The pirates had been stopped in their tracks, their reign of terror brought to a swift and merciless end. But the victory was bittersweet. Though the colonies were safe for now, the greater question loomed large. What would the Orion Assembly think of humanity's sudden rise? Would they stand by and let Earth's power go unchallenged? Across the galaxy, news of the human victory spread like wildfire. The Assembly had watched, of course, though they had not intervened in the battle. They had observed, perhaps as a way to measure humanity's reaction. The victory had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, rattling the Assembly to its core. What the humans had done was nothing short of extraordinary. They had not only defended themselves, but had obliterated a pirate threat with a force and precision no other civilization had ever imagined. There were those within the Assembly who saw this as a challenge, a dangerous precedent for the future. If humanity could wield such power so quickly, what might they do next? The council chambers of the Orion Assembly were filled with tension when they reconvened after the human victory. Representatives from various factions of the galaxy sat in their seats, murmuring amongst themselves, their eyes fixed on the data displayed before them. The reports from the human campaign were clear. In less than 3 days, Earth had wiped out a pirate threat that had been terrorizing their colonies for months. The pirates had been no match for humanity's rapid adaptation and battlefield intelligence. The display was nothing short of devastating. The Assembly was divided. Some argued that humanity's sudden show of force was a dangerous anomaly. Others believed it to be a necessary demonstration of strength. The internal debate was fierce. But one thing was certain. Humanity's place in the galaxy had been irrevocably changed. In the midst of this uncertainty, Earth prepared to send its representatives to the next council meeting. This time, they would not be petitioners. This time, they would not wait. Humanity had shown the galaxy their strength, and now they would claim their place. The next council meeting would not be one of humility or plea. Earth would arrive, uninvited, as a power. They would deliver a simple message to the galaxy. You had your chance to lead. Now it's our turn. 72 hours. That was all it had taken for humanity to obliterate the pirate fleets that had plagued the outer colonies for so long. 3 days. It was an unprecedented display of military precision, coordination, and power. By the time the final pirate ship fell from the sky, Earth's fleets had already begun their return to the homeworld, the victory secured. But what had been a triumph on the battlefield quickly became a far more complex and dangerous reality. The galaxy was watching, and the Orion Assembly, for the first time in millennia, was rattled. The pirate fleets were gone, scattered to the far reaches of the galaxy. There remains a testament to humanity's newfound strength. The outer colonies were safe, and Earth had delivered its message loud and clear. No longer would humanity wait for permission. They had shown that they could and would defend themselves. The question now was what the Orion Assembly would do in response. As the Earth warships returned to their respective stations, the mood on the homeworld was one of cautious optimism. The people celebrated their hard-won victory But the government and military leaders knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had struck a decisive blow, but they had also revealed their hand. The galaxy, especially the Orion Assembly, would not ignore what had happened. General Daniel Crane stood before a war room full of Earth's highest military officials, the data from the campaign displayed across the holographic table. It was staggering. The AIs had executed hundreds of calculated maneuvers, each one better than the last. There had been no mistakes. The pirates had never stood a chance. Earth's new military capabilities had proven to be far beyond anything the galaxy had expected. "We have made our point," General Crane said, his voice steady but laced with a quiet intensity. "The pirates are gone. The outer colonies are safe. But we have no illusions. The Assembly will not let this go unnoticed. There will be consequences." The room was filled with silence. They all knew it was true. The Orion Assembly, with its centuries of experience in galactic diplomacy and control, would not take kindly to the sudden rise of a new power on the galactic stage. The Assembly's refusal to intervene had cost countless lives, but had also pushed humanity to this point. Now, Earth was a force in its own right. "Are we ready for the next step?" Kovacs asked, her tone firm, though her eyes revealed the weight of the decision that lay ahead. As Secretary General, she had long been the voice of reason and diplomacy, but now, even she recognized that diplomacy might no longer be enough. "We're ready," General Crane responded without hesitation. "We've been preparing for this moment for years. It's time to send a message to the Assembly. We're no longer petitioners, we're a power, and it's time the galaxy learned that." The next steps were set into motion quickly. Earth's highest-ranking officials had already made the decision. They would attend the next Galactic Council meeting, but not as a humble species asking for permission. Humanity would arrive uninvited, with their heads held high, their message clear. It was time to claim their place in the galaxy. And they would do so with evidence of their victory, a comprehensive record of the Operation Ignition campaign, all the strategies, all the AI calculations, everything that had gone into their swift and devastating campaign against the pirates. The Assembly might have been indifferent to Earth's plight, but now they would be forced to acknowledge the power that humanity had brought to bear. The day of the Council meeting arrived. The Council Chamber of the Orion Assembly was a majestic structure, located at the heart of the galaxy, situated on a neutral world that had long been the site of important intergalactic discussions. Representatives from hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy filled the chamber, their varied forms and cultures a testament to the galaxy's diversity. Yet, despite the variety, there was a uniformity in how things were done. The Assembly's carefully crafted system of governance had remained unchanged for centuries. Today, however, something felt different. The delegates of the Assembly were already seated, their attention focused on the dais where the representative from the United Earth Directorate was expected to present. But Earth had not been invited. They had not been formally acknowledged as a species worthy of such an invitation. Not yet. Still, they had shown up. Their warships, sleek and silent, hovered just outside the system, a constant reminder of the strength they now wielded. The doors to the chamber opened, and a hush fell over the room. Kovacs stepped forward, flanked by General Crane and a small delegation of human diplomats and military officials. The tension was palpable. The assembled representatives, some ancient, some young, watched as the humans entered, their faces unreadable. They were not supposed to be here, but they were. Kovacs took her place at the central dais, her expression resolute. Her voice rang out, calm but powerful. "The human race is here, uninvited, because the galaxy has failed us," she began. "We've waited for centuries, been patient for far too long, as the Assembly watched and did nothing. When our colonies were attacked, when millions of our people were slaughtered by pirate fleets, we asked for help. And you refused. You told us to wait. You told us it was part of the growing pains. But now, humanity has learned that waiting is a luxury we cannot afford." She paused, letting her words sink in. The chamber was dead silent. "We have no interest in petitioning for a seat at the table any longer. We have shown the galaxy what we are capable of. In 72 hours, humanity eradicated a pirate threat that no one else dared to touch. And in doing so, we've proven that we are no longer a species to be dismissed. She motioned to the hollow projector beside her, and the full records of Operation Ignition sprang to life in the center of the room. Every battle tactic, every decision made, every victory won, laid out for all to see. The precision, the coordination, the overwhelming force that humanity had brought to bear was undeniable. You had your chance to lead. Now it's our turn. The message was clear, and it reverberated through the chamber. The representatives of the assembly shifted uncomfortably, their expressions ranging from shock to fear. Humanity had thrown down the gauntlet. They were no longer the humble petitioners. Earth had arrived, not to beg, but to claim their place in the galaxy. The debate began almost immediately. How can you? One of the more conservative representatives began, but Kovacs cut him off. We don't need permission, she said firmly. We've earned our place. And with that, humanity had made its boldest statement yet. The galaxy would never be the same again. The silence that followed the human delegation's bold declaration in the council chamber of the Orion Assembly was more than just quiet. It was palpable. The representatives of the Assembly, civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia with a level of control that made their presence almost omnipotent, were now confronted with something they had not expected, a species that refused to obey the unwritten rules of galactic diplomacy. A species that had shown not only its resilience, but its ability to act with overwhelming force. Humanity had arrived, uninvited, and demanded a seat at the table. Kovacs stood at the dais, her expression composed but resolute. She had made her statement, and now the galaxy was waiting for a response. The Assembly's leadership, for the first time in centuries, found itself at a loss. The first to react was a representative from the Vishari, an ancient species known for their unparalleled mastery of diplomacy and psychological manipulation. Their pale, crystalline skin shimmered under the chamber lights as their representative, a tall and imposing figure, rose to address the assembly. This cannot be allowed, the Vishari delegate said, his voice smooth but tinged with an unmistakable sense of outrage. The humans, your people, have broken every precedent. The Council is not some playground for new civilizations to demand power. We've nurtured the galaxy's harmony for centuries. If every species behaved as the humans have, we would descend into chaos. Their arrogance threatens everything we've worked for. There were murmurs of agreement from several other representatives, particularly from older civilizations who had maintained a steady, measured pace of growth over millennia. They saw the stability of the galaxy as something sacred, something worth protecting at any cost. Humanity's sudden emergence, their unparalleled show of force, was an affront to that ideal. To them, it felt as though the natural order was being upended. But Kovacs was undeterred. She met their gaze with a cool and unwavering stare. You speak of harmony and order, she said, her voice steady. But what harmony was there when entire colonies of humans were left to burn? What order do you preserve when you watch millions die and do nothing? You claim to care about balance, but when it comes to the survival of new civilizations, you turn your backs. Humanity has waited for centuries. And for what? We have learned that it is not patience that brings progress. It is action. General Crane, standing beside Kovacs, watched the Assembly's responses carefully, noting the shifts in the room's energy. There were those who bristled at the audacity of humanity's actions, and then there were those who began to look more thoughtfully at the data projected before them. The pirates' swift destruction had left a deep impression on the Assembly. The evidence was irrefutable. What we've shown in these 72 hours, Kovacs continued, is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of survival. The pirate fleets that threatened our colonies were destroyed with such efficiency that it would be impossible for any of you to deny our strength. And we have only just begun to show what we are capable of. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to lead. The debate that followed was intense and far-reaching, echoing across the chamber. Some factions of the Assembly voiced their concerns about the sudden emergence of a new galactic power, a species that had defied the slow and calculated processes they had adhered to for so long. But there were others who saw something different. They saw potential. They saw a new force that might actually be able to bring about change, a force that could challenge the status quo. The Uther, an insectoid species known for their strength and cunning, were among the first to break the silence, their mandibles clicking in rhythmic fashion. The humans have proven themselves capable of remarkable feats, their representative said, an unexpected note of respect in their voice. Perhaps we have underestimated them. They did what we could not, what even we were unwilling to do. But power like theirs must be watched carefully. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some representatives were clearly uneasy, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Perhaps humanity wasn't as insignificant as the Assembly had thought. The Galran, an ancient race of beings known for their advanced scientific knowledge and political influence, spoke next. The human method may be unorthodox, but it is effective. Perhaps it is time to reconsider how we view their place in the galaxy. It's clear that they are no longer a species that can be ignored. Despite the shockwaves humanity's boldness had sent through the Assembly, one thing was becoming increasingly clear. Earth had achieved something few could have imagined. The great power structures of the galaxy, once unchallenged, were now uncertain. What had been a small, tentative voice calling for a seat at the table had become a formidable force that could no longer be disregarded. But there was still resistance. An older representative from the Athelian Empire, a species whose empire had existed for thousands of years and whose wisdom was unrivaled, rose slowly from their seat. Their voice was deep and rich with the weight of eons. "We understand the emotions driving humanity," the Athelian delegate said. "But the path you have chosen is one of war, not diplomacy. You would destroy the delicate fabric that holds our society together. You believe that strength will earn you a seat, but it is not strength that we value. It is wisdom, patience, and respect for the order that has sustained us." Kovacs turned to face the Athelian delegate, her expression unwavering. "Wisdom? Patience? You speak of wisdom, but what wisdom is there in watching entire civilizations burn and doing nothing? You speak of order, but where was your order when pirates overran our colonies? When your precious patience led to the suffering of millions? Humanity does not seek your wisdom. We seek our own future. One in which we do not wait for permission, one in which we forge our own path." The tension in the chamber reached a breaking point. The debate raged on, but behind the scenes, the Assembly's internal divisions began to surface. There were factions within the Council, and for the first time in centuries, it seemed those factions might be irreparably split. Some would see humanity's emergence as a threat, a destabilizing force that could tear apart the galaxy's fragile peace. Others began to see it as an opportunity to build something new, to allow a new species to take a place of leadership. In the end, the debate could not be settled in a single session. The decision would be postponed, but the message had been sent, loud and clear. Humanity had arrived, and they were not going to wait for the Assembly to decide when it was their turn. As the meeting adjourned, Kovacs stood before the dais, her heart pounding. She had said what needed to be said, and the galaxy had heard her words. The humans had made their move, and now the galaxy would have to reckon with it. There was no turning back, but she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had made its mark. The age of waiting was over, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The days following the historic council meeting were tense. Earth's representatives had left the chamber, and yet their presence lingered in the hearts and minds of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations. No one had expected humanity to act so boldly, so decisively. And now, no one could ignore the reality of what Earth had shown. A species capable of tremendous power, unafraid to wield it, and more than willing to challenge the established order of the galaxy. As the dust settled, the question that remained was whether the Orion Assembly would accept humanity's challenge or crush it beneath the weight of millennia of tradition. Kovacs stood at the edge of a glass window in the Earth Senate building, her hands resting lightly against the cool surface as she gazed out across the bustling city. The skyline of New York stretched far beneath her, a living testament to humanity's resilience and ambition. The streets, once silent with the quiet dread of a waiting species, were now alive with renewed energy. The people of Earth had heard the message. They had felt the pulse of change. It was no longer a world held back by the limits of patience. Humanity was standing on the precipice of something vast, something new. The unexpected nature of their actions had thrown the galaxy into disarray. The Orion Assembly was reeling from the shock. Factions were emerging, some in support of humanity's claims and others determined to resist. The debate in the Assembly was fierce, and though no final decisions had been made, one thing was clear. Humanity had irrevocably changed the dynamics of galactic politics. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was no longer a place of slow-moving, deliberate control. It was a place of potential upheaval. The Council had been divided. Some members had argued that humanity's methods, while harsh, demonstrated their potential. Others viewed the humans as dangerous, a species that, if left unchecked, could disrupt the balance of power and alter the very fabric of galactic governance. The Assembly, as vast and diverse as it was, had never seen anything like Earth before. Despite the uncertainty, one thing was certain: Earth would not be left waiting any longer. The United Earth Directorate had prepared for this moment for years. The black budget projects, the advanced military technologies, the AI networks that had orchestrated Operation Ignition, they were not just weapons of defense. They were the foundation of a new future for humanity. A future that would no longer be dictated by the pace set by the Orion Assembly. As she watched the sun dip below the horizon, Kovacs knew that the next step in humanity's journey was now inevitable. The Council had refused to intervene when Earth had been under threat from the pirate fleets. But when the human race had demonstrated its own power, the Assembly had been forced to listen. And now, Earth would take its place, not as a supplicant, not as a mere player, but as a force in its own right. Back in the heart of the Orion Assembly, the factions continued to bicker over humanity's future. But the pressure was mounting. A new reality was forming in the minds of many representatives. The galaxy had spent centuries under the Assembly's rule, governed by ancient laws and protocols. For most civilizations, this was the way things had always been. The Assembly's vision of gradual progression, of slow, careful inclusion, had been the cornerstone of peace and stability. But Earth's sudden emergence forced the question: was it time for the galaxy to evolve? While the Assembly debated, humanity remained resolute. The Earth fleet, now equipped with the latest technologies, continued to perform training exercises across the galaxy's outer rim. The warships, sleek and powerful, were a testament to humanity's newfound capabilities. They moved with the precision of a single mind, coordinated by their AI networks. Earth was no longer a passive observer. They were shaping their own destiny. Kovacs had long since made peace with the fact that the old world order was dying. She had spent her entire life waiting for a seat at the table, for the Assembly to recognize humanity's worth. But now, as she watched the galaxy teeter on the edge of change, she understood that the seat she had once sought was no longer enough. Humanity didn't need permission to lead. It was their turn to take the reins. The moment arrived sooner than expected. A transmission from the Orion Assembly came through, reaching Earth's highest command channels. It was a formal invitation to a council meeting, the first official recognition of humanity as an equal power. But the terms of the invitation were not what Earth had hoped for. The Assembly, in an attempt to appease both factions, had proposed a compromise. Humanity would be granted a seat at the table, but only under strict oversight. They would be required to adhere to the Assembly's long-standing protocols and follow the carefully calculated pace that had governed galactic politics for eons. It was a seat, yes, but it was one with restrictions, one that limited the influence humanity could wield. It was clear that the Assembly had underestimated Earth's resolve. Kovacs received the transmission and, after reading it, knew immediately what had to be done. This was not the outcome they had fought for. The following day, Kovacs addressed the Earth Senate, her voice steady as she read the terms of the invitation aloud. "They want us to sit at the table," she said, her eyes meeting the gazes of every senator in the room. "But they want us to play by their rules. They want us to wait, to follow their carefully measured pace, and to limit our influence. We're being told that our methods are too disruptive, too aggressive. They want us to back down." The room was filled with murmurs. Kovacs paused, letting the weight of the message settle in. "We've proven that we can defend ourselves. We've shown that we are a force in the galaxy. And now, we're being told that we must wait for approval. We will not be restrained by their rules any longer. It's time for humanity to take its place as a leader, not as a subordinate." There was a moment of silence as the senators absorbed her words. Then, one by one, they began to nod in agreement. Humanity had spent too long waiting, too long subject to the Assembly's whims. The time for waiting was over. Humanity's response was swift and decisive. The following week, Earth's representatives arrived at the next Assembly meeting, uninvited, but this time they brought with them more than just a statement. They brought their full military and technological strength. Every warship that had participated in the operation stood in the distance, hovering near the Assembly's core worlds, an unmistakable message of intent. Kovacs and General Crane stood together before the Assembly, their faces unwavering. "You had your chance to lead," Kovacs began, her voice firm but resolute, "and you failed us. You turned your back on our people. Now, Earth will take its rightful place as a leader in the galaxy. We will no longer wait for permission. We will not accept your limitations." The room fell silent. The Assembly's leaders, stunned and unsure, exchanged glances. They had expected humanity to follow their terms, to bend to their will. But Earth had no intention of submitting. "You had your chance to lead. Now it's our turn." And with that, the galaxy entered a new era. An era where humanity no longer waited for approval. An era where Earth had claimed its place not just as a member of the Galactic Council, but as a power in its own right, unafraid to challenge the old ways and ready to shape the future on its own terms. The stars had always held a promise, and now humanity was prepared to claim it.